the hilarious hit Broadway musical. Order up.
Get your tickets at BroadwayInToledo.com.
All right, everybody, the show's almost over, but we have time for one more play. Get it? Do you like the reference? It's because I make references like that because I have sports Emmys. I don't know if I mentioned it this show, but I have 2 sports Emmys, and Troy Aikman has none. This is what I'm liking. All right, I'm just kidding. I love you, Troy. There's nothing like making that game-winning play. 16-year-old Jurion knows that as well as any athlete. And when he caught a Hail Mary pass with just 5 seconds left on the clock, it's like a movie. He knew exactly who he wanted to celebrate with. Check this out.
5 seconds left. QB said everyone go deep, and this happened. Went straight to moms.
Every time I cry. It's like, where's he going? And then he goes to his mom. He went straight to his mama, and it's the sweetest thing ever. We have Jurion and his mom, Shira, on the line right now. What's up, y'all? Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you, that breaks my heart in the best ways. First of all, Jurion, how did it feel to catch that pass?
It felt amazing. Good experience. It was dope.
Oh my God, I can only imagine. I would be freaking out, but cool, I'll take dope. So Shira, what did you say to Jurion like before that huge play?
Right before that play, Jurion was very frustrated. And so I told him that, Jurion, you have to connect your heart and your mind. And his heart is God, and his mind is him. And Jurion is the youngest of 3. And I call him my miracle child. And that's because that when Jurion had torn his meniscus, and it was, that's when we found out that he had an abnormal meniscus. And he was 14 years old. He had surgery, and the doctors told him that he wouldn't probably play football anymore. And it had broken him. And now he's in high school, junior, with 21 football scholarship offers.
Oh my gosh!
Very proud. But that pass, it was beautiful. I was so excited. And I just pray that he fulfill his dreams and to be able to play in the NFL.
Oh my gosh! All right, I'm liking your post right now. And that's not all our season-long partner Pilot Pin, makers of Friction, the go-to erasable pin of the Kelly Clarkson Show, want to celebrate those creating fearlessly just like you, so they're going to give you $1,000. How's that sound?
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, maybe not, you maybe don't need it. You got all that scholarship money. That's awesome. That's amazing. I hope to see you in the NFL one day, man. You got to come back on my show. All right, thank y'all. Y'all have a blessed day, and thank you to all our guests today. Charlie Puth, Troy Aikman, so cool. Chef Scott, Sarah, Aristotle, Brock, Bryson, Takiti, Anton, London, and Colin. Y'all have a great day, and if it's not great, then change it.
firm. Right now. 13 ABC Action News, streaming today on Apple TV.
Everybody went home safe to their families tonight.
Ice rescue. Fishermen stuck on Lake Erie are safely back on land. How the forecast looks for the week ahead.
This is a military that's backed by a lot of firepower, a lot of air power.
Invasion warning. The U.S. cautions Russia could invade Ukraine any day as the country continues to build up troops near the border.
We're right now dropping rapidly.
Dramatic drop. The number of new COVID infections in Ohio is now the lowest since August of last year.
This is 13 ABC Action News at 4 with Tina Williams and Tony Giftis.
Well, welcome into Action News at 4 on this Monday. We start with your top 4 at 4.
More than a dozen fishermen are safe after they were stranded when an ice floe broke free on Lake Erie yesterday.
Today, many of those fishermen returned to safely retrieve their items that were left behind.
13 ABC's Mackenzie Keyline joins us live from Catawba Island with the very latest. Mackenzie?
Well, Tony and Tina, many of those fishermen that were rescued from Lake Erie were transported back to shore either by helicopter or airboats like the one you see behind me here. And that meant many of them had to leave their belongings behind. And today it was recovered about 3 miles off of shore. Now, as we reported, this all happened yesterday when that ice floe broke free on Lake Erie just near Catawba Island, leaving about 18 fishermen trapped. Well, they were all safely rescued thanks to the Coast Guard, but their items such as four-wheelers and snowmobiles, that was all left behind. And we did talk to one fisherman who tells us that the equipment he left on the ice valued about $5,000. So today he was able to safely recover all of that, but it was thanks to the rescue Marine from Marblehead and their airboats.
Our plan right now is to take our airboat out, cross the area of open water, get back up on the ice where the machines are, and then we will load them one at a time onto our airboat and bring them back to shore.
How much does it cost now to get your stuff back?
$600.
But worth it?
Absolutely. It's better than $4,000.
Now, that entire process took about an hour to recover those items. We are told about 3 snowmobiles were still left behind. The plan is to go back out on the ice and get those tomorrow. Tony?
All right, Mackenzie, so it begs the question, what would happen if they just left their stuff out there and didn't go back on the ice to get everything?
Yeah, so basically those items would be considered abandoned, which would mean they would be left there on the ice. Thankfully, that wasn't the case, as all the owners did contact the proper authorities to get those items removed off the lake. Again, we mentioned 3 snowmobiles still on the ice. The plan is to get those come tomorrow morning. Tony?
All right, Mackenzie Keyline reporting live.
Story number 2 in your top 4 at 4. The Ohio legislature has a new deadline. Lawmakers set to unveil its congressional map proposal this week and needs to decide on new districts by this coming Sunday. Now, because the Ohio Supreme Court is still deliberating, that means candidates for both House and Senate are filing for districts that may or may not exist in the coming days. The court had ruled previously that the map that was initially approved was unconstitutional because it unfairly favored Republicans. A member said some Democrats have to get on board with the new proposal in order to install a new map before the May primary. Now, if lawmakers don't pass a plan, that is by this Sunday, the Redistricting Commission will have 30 days to create a map.
Story 3 in your top 4 at 4. A silver lining in the COVID pandemic. According to the CDC, every state in the country is now reporting new case rates are down or stable.
Now, some areas even easing restrictions. Some of the most notable changes include Delaware. It is lifting its indoor mask mandate later this week. In New Jersey, officials say the state is planning to do the exact same thing in schools come next month.
Overall, cases are down roughly 61% since the peak of Omicron. Hospitalizations are also down about 45%.
I think we're in a much better space. I worry about might we have a future variant? We might. Might we have future surges? We might. So I don't think we can say COVID is over, but I think we can say we're in a much better place and we can get our lives back.
The CDC says 64% of the U.S. population is fully vaccinated. 42% have also received booster shots.
And rounding out your top 4 at 4, foreign diplomats are working to avoid a Russian invasion of Ukraine. President Joe Biden is meeting with the Chancellor of Germany and trying to encourage the country to join NATO. Meanwhile, Vladimir Putin continues to deny that Russia is planning an attack. New video released by the Kremlin shows troops conducting military drills in neighboring Belarus, where Russia has built up a major military presence. Top U.S. officials are warning Russia could invade any day.
Don't believe that Mr. President Putin has made a decision, but he has put in place the capacity, should he so decide, to act very quickly.
One key topic on the agenda between President Biden and the German Chancellor is the natural gas pipeline between Russia and Germany. The U.S. insists it will take steps to block the pipeline, along with other severe economic sanctions, if Russia does invade Ukraine.
Now let's talk about your weather. A much calmer week ahead, but still a few days out there where we could see some snow.
Meteorologist Dan Smith got you covered if you're heading out the door at 4. Dan?
And just a bit of wind today and really no flakes falling from the sky yet from what I've seen. We still have the potential for a few flurries later today and through the week, as you had just mentioned there. So if you are heading out the door at 4, just bundle up. It's not nearly as brutally cold as we'd been. Even just starting out Saturday had been, close to 20 degrees. Yesterday finally got to the freezing mark again under lots of sunshine. Today we hit freezing and not so much on the sunshine here. And speaking of which, we had mentioned the ice rescue out there on Lake Erie. Talking about that ice breakup, this was the last, let's say, clearer image taken because we had the cloud cover today, not really gaining a clear picture of what's happening this side of the basin, but it really speaks to how fast that breakup happened. Those southwest winds between 20, 30 miles an hour, pushing most of that ice onto the Canadian side. And that is despite most of the lake, about 90% of the lake, being covered in ice at that point. Now, again, no ice is safe ice, and that certainly came home to roost yesterday for the most part. Hard to tell where that crack is closer to Catawba Island, but Toledo's way on the left-hand side of your screen. Catawba just sort of ahead above that image taken text down there, and that was right around the time of that rescue, just about 1 o'clock. So again, pretty impressive ice breakup we've had on the lake, and 3 of the next 4 days we've got coming up here leading into next weekend are at or above freezing, and some even trying to make a run at 40 degrees. So if you're thinking of maybe going out on the ice, you might want to reconsider some of those plans. We'll break down the rest of this much calmer week in weather when I return.
Thanks, Dan. First it was COVID, now it's racial slurs. Joe Rogan is back in the news. How Spotify is responding this time.
Panda pandemonium. Meet the mascot taking the Olympics by
And it's why we're there for every client, every day. Elk & Elk, serious lawyers for serious injuries.
All new today in your digital dive, controversy continues to surround podcaster Joe Rogan and the streaming service Spotify. Rogan took to Instagram over the weekend to apologize for a video that surfaced showing him use a racial slur multiple times.
Most regretful and shameful thing that I've ever had to talk about publicly. I know that to most people, there's no context where a white person is ever allowed to say that word, never mind publicly on a podcast. And I agree with that now.
Rogan has been facing criticism for sharing what's called misinformation about COVID on his Spotify podcast, but that has led to artists like Neil Young to pull music from the streaming platform. In a letter to employees yesterday, Spotify's CEO said he, quote, does not believe silencing is the answer. Spotify says it's now adding content advisories to COVID-related podcasts.
Well, Verizon is locking its customers in. If you want to get a new phone, you have two options: pay full price or pay as you go, but it comes with a 3-year contract. The company dropped its shorter 24 and 30-month plans. And according to the company's frequently asked questions page, unless you pay the device in full, there's no way out of the plan, not even if you pay more per month.
Alexa, unlock my car, please. Amazon's popular personal assistant can now hit the road with you. Alexa is now available for more than 200,000 newer model Jaguar and Land Rover vehicles with the company's latest infotainment system.
Well, the voice assistant can help drivers with hands-free music, navigating, and everything else Alexa is capable of, like announcing the news, the weather, and answering all of your random questions.
I'm sitting here hoping we didn't trigger everybody's devices. So Alexa, lock the car.
All of the people that have Jaguars and Land Rovers. It's very down to earth.
That's our audience right here. Do you say Jaguar or Jaguar? For a while it was Jaguar, right?
No, Jaguar.
I have no idea.
Jaguar.
I have neither. Today in your trending videos, an American surfing legend is making waves online after hinting at retirement.
Yeah, just over the weekend, Kelly Slater scored another career victory, beating out guys half his age. He won for the 8th time at Pipeline, just a few days shy of his 50th birthday. But after the big win here, Slater told the Associated Press of possible retirement, saying this might be it.
Next big surfing event is in Australia, which has a strict COVID vaccination policy. Slater has yet to publicly reveal whether he was vaccinated, but he's criticized the mandates in recent weeks. Sports fans love their mascots, especially in Beijing. The Winter Olympics mascot, Bing Duen Duen, also known as BDD, is a huge hit at the games. And when it comes out, the cheers are louder than sometimes for the athletes. Sure.
And this little guy is on everything: signage, merch, flags, you name it. Stuffed versions are also given to medalists. There are reports that souvenir shops are already sold out. And I guess I said this little guy. I don't know. I don't know how it identifies.
Well,
I do not know.
Sure.
But
it's
very
panda
cute.
Either way.
It's cute.
And it just seems very Disney-ish to me. It seems like, I don't know, maybe borrowed from the mouse or collaborated with the mouse. But one of those, it's very Disney to me. I don't know. There's a new Super Bowl secret weapon that could give the Cincinnati Bengals an advantage at the games. It's their viral sensation, the cart. This is a simple 3-tiered metal cart, but it went viral in October after it was wheeled out for the media conferences.
Yeah, that's right. The cart was where the reporters could place their mics and their phones for heightened COVID safety. Well, the Bengals they ran with this whole thing. They embraced it. The viral stardom of the cart and what it brought them. So now they're taking the cart to the Super Bowl, even sharing an announcement on Twitter. Now, the cart also has its own unofficial Twitter account. And you know, that cart looks very familiar to the one that was rolled out in elementary school when you knew you got to watch a movie.
The AV cart.
It had the old, it was just a cart, but I like it. I like it. I'm here for it, especially if you're not a big football fan. How fun. I like it. Well, the storm is gone, but snow is still a big problem on some Toledo streets.
So what's the plan? We go straight to the city for answers.
associates now to start living better, debt-free. 1-800-951-1041.
The California-Nevada border, this was in Truckee, Nevada. You can see it started off well enough, but then they had to pull some people from the ice out there. Officials say a group of 6 had been skating when it gave way. So 2 of the skaters actually were able to pull 3 others from the water. 1 person was not found, but yesterday rescue divers were able to recover the body of that skater. Authorities across that area have a message: stay off the ice.
Temperatures here fluctuate too much to really allow for any consistency or any confidence at all that the ice will support you.
And the identity of the body that has been found has not yet been released.
Now, 13 ABC First Alert Weather with meteorologist Dan Smith.
And the ice continues to break up on Lake Erie as we have those southwest winds pushing up. But our forecast headlines overall, a much calmer week as we've been starting out here. A bit overcast for the most part here in Toledo. Not so much in terms of snow falling from the sky. We have a few flurries out there, but we're going to have a few more chances in the days ahead. Just not tomorrow. That's one that's going to be mostly sunny, I should think. And we get a few days above freezing. Tomorrow is not one of them. Again, it's been that kind of inverse thing where even with the sunshine, those tend to be the colder days because it allows us to bottom out, especially in the morning. Those better snow chances do arrive late in the week, but that's probably going to come with a rain-snow mix, up to an inch of snow expected for that highest chance day. So not really breaking the bank there, especially compared to last week. 29, feeling like 18 right now. We did briefly touch the freezing mark this early afternoon. Winds from the west now between about 15, 20 miles an hour. Satellite and radar, not a whole lot to see, at least on the lakeshore. You can sort of see in between some of the clouds there the extent of some of that ice breakup has really just been continuing on here. A few snow showers even trying to come on here as we're losing some of that light late in the day here. You're losing that visible satellite image. Zooming this on out, you probably see it here on the Indiana-Michigan border. A little bit of snow trying to come on in. It's not expected to bring much more than a dusting, maybe a ½ inch across northwest Ohio, southeast Michigan in the hours ahead. So how about the hours ahead here? We roll on through Predictor. It's barely even picking up on that little batch that's out to the west, but it is picking up on the breaks of sunshine for tomorrow. I'm guessing partly sunny skies for tomorrow, and then we roll this on through the second half of the week. Wednesday into Thursday. Notice where this is kind of, you get the sense this is all pivoting around a low that is centered way up in the upper peninsula. So the UP is where that's centered, and all this snow keeps on rolling through. Very scattered in nature. It's not a huge event like what we had last week here, so few and far between for those snow showers, but you have higher chances as you're going through the week here. How about tonight? 9 degrees. That's going to be our last low in the single digits, I should think, for the next several days. Those flurries still on early here, but getting colder. That will heavily depend on whether we can break out from underneath this cloud cover. If we don't, those lows could be closer to 20 degrees. And if we break out even earlier, closer to 0. Again, kind of taking the middle on this one because clouds can make or break a forecast here. It's not going to matter much in terms of the snowfall, though. So again, sort of splitting hairs at that point. Tomorrow, 30 degrees, just a little bit on the colder side here, a little bit back below freezing, but we get a bit more sunshine out there too. Your first alert extended forecast, you see the trend here, 37 on Wednesday, 37 on Friday, and that's where we got that highest chance. A rain-snow mix coming on in here. Breezy though, those winds now looking between 30. Some models trying to pop in 40-mile-an-hour winds coming in, but right now still working to analyze that. Otherwise, you have cooler air with more sunshine. Again, the running theme here, especially Sunday, coming in to the tune of 22 degrees.
Thanks, Dan. After last week's storm, several viewers called or reached out to us saying their street had yet to be plowed by the city of Toledo. So we reached out to the city for an update.
And we're told 100% of the residential streets have been plowed at least once. The city says that plow drivers are continuing to work shifts cleaning the roads. Half of the streets within the city that are residential have received a second pass with the plows. So if you're concerned about your street, you feel like that's maybe not the case, or you need a third pass, the city says Engage Toledo is still responding to your calls. You can give them a ring, 419-936-2020, or you can also file a complaint on the city's website.
He was shot and killed outside of a bar in Toledo.
programs and transfer options, tour campus, learn about support services, check out student clubs and activities. It's all.
A Toledo woman says she's determined to find her boyfriend's killer. He was gunned down just weeks before their son was born.
13 ABC's Melissa Veitch has the story in today's case files.
Samika Alexander and Scotty Hopings were expecting their first child together, a boy. In fact, the week of April 7th, they were getting ready for their baby shower. Samika says she was settling in for the night. She says Scotty had gone out for a drink at Andrea's Sports Bar off Alexis and Secor.
He may here and there go to the bar, have a drink, but not like a party guy like that.
But at 9 p.m., police say there was a disagreement in the bar.
They kind of tussled each other around and were put out the bar, and moments later he was shot.
Investigators say Scotty was shot 11 times. Samika got word. She says her world stopped.
It was life-changing. Life-changing. Split second, I went from preparing for this baby shower to preparing for his funeral.
Samika says the details of that night are hazy. She doesn't know who would want to hurt Scotty. She says he lived for her and his kids.
I enjoyed spending time with his kids. If he wasn't working on the house, if he wasn't working out, he was with the kids.
Police aren't commenting on Scotty's case at all because it's still an active investigation. That includes releasing information about any suspects.
I feel like there is enough evidence and enough people who have come forward with information for something more than it's an ongoing investigation.
Samika says she will not stop fighting for answers, not just for Scotty, but for their son who's 9 months old.
My son will never get to meet him. He won't know what it's like to hug his dad.
For this week's Case Files, Melissa Veitch, 13 ABC Action News.
And if you have any information about this case, you're asked to contact Toledo Police. You can also leave anonymous tips by calling Crime Stopper. That number is 419-255-1111. And if you have an unsolved case that you would like the I-Team to feature, you can send an email to iteam@13abc.com.
He was sent to jail and died while
Fresh for everyone.
13 ABC is your official school closing station.
Their family member died in police custody, and now the jail is facing a lawsuit in federal court.
Lawyers for the estate of Chavez Martinez claim employees at the Correction Center of Northwest Ohio knew Martinez had type 1 diabetes, requiring insulin. According to this lawsuit, Martinez arrived at CCNO on February 4th of last year and had elevated blood sugar. Court documents indicate at times his blood sugar was not checked, and 1 week later he was found unresponsive and died.
A death certificate indicates his death was from complications related to his diabetes. Lawyers claim the staff at CCNO was negligent.
Mr. Martinez came into this jail fully knowing about his medical history and past. He reported it multiple times. Everyone that was supposed to be treating for him was aware that he needed his blood sugar checked as well as his insulin. His blood sugar was 984 when he got to the hospital, which again is just completely unacceptable. They left him. And
now, the wrongful death civil rights lawsuit was just filed in federal court. We also reached out to CCNO for a response today. A spokesperson says they have not yet been served and are unable to comment due to the potential of litigation.
Dispensing medical marijuana, the industry is growing, and new shops are coming soon, but who will get picked?
Plus, taking you back to the 1920s, we take you inside a jazz club showcasing Toledo talent in this week's Finds in the 419.
And several days above freezing coming up this week. Also, small
Help us find cancers early when they're easiest to treat.
Cancer screenings save lives.
This is 13 ABC Action News at 4 with Tina Williams and Tony Geftis.
Medical marijuana is expanding in Ohio.
Right now, there are hundreds of potential business owners just waiting to see if they will receive one of 73 dispensary licenses that are up for grabs. Medical marijuana growth is our big story today.
There are currently 1,456 applications pending. Those business owners filed applications to take part in a statewide lottery. The lottery determined a rank for the competitors vying for a license to open and operate a dispensary.
So here's how it breaks down. There are actually 4 separate districts across the state of Ohio. You can see them here in the different colors. And there are 73 new licenses that will be granted. Now, each district has a specific number of dispensary licenses that are actually up for grabs. So let's take a closer look at this whole thing. Here is Northwest Ohio. You can see all of the counties in this area and where they fall within this mini district. And here's how many Northwest Ohio is receiving. 10 dispensary licenses will be awarded. Those licenses then broken down, as I mentioned, by all the different areas that you see here in the colors.
Here's a breakdown of the numbers in our area. 262 applicants are competing for the 10 dispensary licenses. The greater Toledo area had the largest number of applicants, coming in at 70.
So what's next? We have Sharon Martin-Moore with the Ohio Board of Pharmacy with us today. So what's the vetting process for the applicants that won the lottery?
So we had a drawing a few weeks ago, and that slated the order of how the applications will be reviewed. Now that the drawing order has been set, they will be sent through our team of reviewers who will look to ensure that each applicant has met all of the requirements. So, for example, they have to be 500 feet from certain locations. They need to have sufficient assets. They need to have explained to us exactly how they're going to be able to get their dispensary up and running.
So how soon will people know if they then will receive this dispensary license?
We don't have an exact date yet as to when we will be announcing the issuance of the new dispensary licenses. We are trying to vet them as carefully and thoroughly, but as quickly as we can.
And what role do local governments play here? Do they need to actually sign off on the dispensaries as well, or can they block these business owners from opening?
Yes, each applicant had to submit a zoning approval form from their local zoning official that states that they are able to locate a dispensary there. And if they are required to get a special license for that from the locality, that they have either applied for that or they would be eligible to receive one.
Do you anticipate that we will see another license application process in the future and another potential lottery, or is this it for now?
Well, under our rules, we are required to review every 2 years to determine if there is a need for additional licenses based on the number of patients, the locations, things like that. So we'll try to get through this licensing process first, but we will once again review it in another 2 years to see if additional licenses are needed.
All right. Well, thank you, Sharon, so much for being with us this afternoon.
Thank you.
Marijuana is the big talk of Sylvania today. Residents have the chance to voice their opinions tonight about the possibility of a medical marijuana dispensary there. A special use permit application has been filed for the facility, and it's on the 5500 block of West Alexis. That is near Monroe and Whiteford. A public hearing is scheduled for tonight at 7 o'clock at Council Chambers. Sylvania City Council will decide whether or not to approve a permit at a later date. We'll have a live preview starting on Action News at 5.
Now, keep in mind, this is medical marijuana. Pot is not recreational here in Ohio, but it is legal in Michigan, Washington, D.C., and 17 other states. But there is a bill on the table, and it's aiming to change that. The Coalition to Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol submitted more than 136,000 signatures as part of what they call an initiated statute process. Now, that proposal allows for the possession of up to 2.5 ounces of marijuana or 15 grams of marijuana extract. Ohioans could even grow their own at home. According to the Secretary of State, Frank LaRose, that bill is now headed to the Ohio General Assembly. Lawmakers have 4 months to pass the bill as it is, amend it, or simply ignore it. Now, if the coalition does not like the outcome, that can actually go back and gather another 133,000 signatures to place the item on the general election ballot.
If Ohio legalizes marijuana this year, it will go against the governor's wishes. Last month, Governor Mike DeWine stated multiple times during a Zoom interview with the Columbus Dispatch he was opposed to legalizing marijuana.
He called the idea, quote, ridiculous, and added that it would cause more problems for people across the state. Now, Governor DeWine did, however, say he is willing to consider a proposal in the Ohio General Assembly that would loosen the rules when it comes to medical marijuana.
From Freedom Convoy to
If you're in a motorcycle accident, the only person to call is Charlie Contrada. He's a great man to have on your side.
It is 4:38 on this Monday afternoon.
Here are some of the top headlines. Still no arrests in Toledo's first homicide of the year. 58-year-old Ray Gott was found shot to death inside his vehicle at North Detroit and Phillips this past Saturday. While it is the first homicide in Toledo this year, it's the second in Lucas County. A man was shot and killed in Springfield Township just outside the city limits last month.
Authorities in Marysville, Ohio now say a blocked fresh air intake in the hotel pool equipment might be to blame for buildup of carbon monoxide that sent more than a dozen people to the hospital last week. A report by the Ohio State Fire Marshal says a plastic bag was found over the intake. An inspector also noted carbon monoxide detectors were not functioning.
The mayor of Ottawa has declared a state of emergency after protests against COVID-19 restrictions in Canada have grown. It started out as a trucker protest against vaccine mandates to cross the border into the U.S. And over the past few weeks, it has morphed into protests against all COVID mandates and restrictions. Ottawa police say at least 7 people were arrested yesterday and about 450 citations have been issued.
Outrage is growing over the shooting death of 22-year-old Amir in Minneapolis. The man was allegedly killed when a SWAT team executed a no-knock warrant at his apartment. The police body camera footage that you just saw shows this whole thing unfold.
Police say he had a gun in his hand when one of the officers fired at least 3 shots. That was just 9 seconds after entering the home, and the shots killed Locke. Locke's family says his gun was licensed and legally owned and that the 22-year-old had no intent to hurt police. His parents are demanding justice.
He didn't have the intent to hurt those officers. He wasn't even awake.
The officer that fired the shot that killed Locke is actually on administrative leave. Here's what we can tell you. The incident has led to multiple protests in Minneapolis that happened over the weekend.
Meantime, jury selection's officially begun in the federal hate crimes trial for 3 men who killed Ahmad Arbori. Government lawyers will try to prove the men chased down and shot the 25-year-old to death because he was black. Gregory and Travis McMichael withdrew their guilty pleas last week after the judge rejected the plea deals due to the Arbori family's objections.
3 inmates from a Tennessee jail on the run today, believed to be somewhere in Virginia at this hour. According to investigators, the trio allegedly snuck through the air vent in the jail's HVAC system, made it to the roof, and then hijacked a car. A reward of $7,500 was announced for any information leading to the arrest of each man. A woman who worked for business mogul and former mayor of New York, Michael Bloomberg, safe today after being kidnapped from his Colorado ranch. Listen to this. According to the sheriff's office, the 46-year-old was allegedly taken at gunpoint from the ranch where she was working as a housekeeper. Investigators say the suspect is a man named Joseph Beecher, who's 48. He allegedly forced his way onto the property by ramming his car through the main gate, then asking the housekeeper about Bloomberg's daughters. Beecher then took off with the woman in his car and drove over state lines. The woman was found safe in Wyoming. Beecher's behind bars, charged with kidnapping.
After years of space exploration, Earth's orbit is turning into a junkyard. Now the Biden administration is taking steps to address the trash floating hundreds of miles above our heads.
Well, last month, the White House held meetings with experts about how to clean up space. Space Force says it will soon launch a program called Orbital Prime that will give companies the funding to do just that. And most space debris is actually left over from the 2 major players of the space race, Russia and the United States.
Back in 2016, a small piece actually hit the International Space Station, and it was at nearly 5 miles a second, so it cracked a window. Today, U.S. Space Command is tracking more than 40,000 objects in space, and only about 5,000 of them are active satellites.
Now, 13 ABC First Alert Weather with meteorologist Dan Smith.
Well, we typically talk about meteorological winter, meteorological spring that starts on the 1st of the month that you would expect winter and spring to actually roll around. Going by just the spring equinox, hey, we're about halfway through now, 41 days until we officially hit springtime. Those temperatures going up as we will through this week, actually. A little bit of the above freezing temperatures we'll have, and sunsets after 6 o'clock are going to be coming back starting Thursday. Not long now. We're adding a few more minutes of daylight at a time here. Not so much in terms of sunlight for today. You see very brief flashes in the midday, and it's been mostly overcast ever since. Look at the time lapse out on the Anthony Wayne high-level bridge. There's the live look. Pretty overcast, 29 degrees, so we're back below freezing. We briefly touched the freezing mark there. Feels like 18, though, because we have those winds still fairly strong from the west, between 15, 20 miles an hour. Wind gusts hasn't been too much of a workout as far as this column's concerned, but it has been enough to help break up the ice on Lake Erie even more. Of course, we had those ice rescues yesterday off Catawba Island, just kind of being pushed off towards the Canadian side here thanks to those southwest winds, a little bit stronger yesterday. And notice back here, back by Angola, Fort Wayne, we have some of that activity trying to push its way into our corner of the Midwest. It's not going to amount to much, a dusting, maybe a ½ inch maximum out of any of these snow showers that do develop and happen to roll our way. So how about predictor? Well, they're barely being picked up on this one model of several here. We roll into tomorrow morning, the afternoon. Most of that going to have some breaks of sun, at the very least more than we had today, and then we roll on into the second half of the week. You're going to see these just very isolated, scattered snow showers rolling on through. You get the sense of this kind of rotation around this. That's a low centered over the Upper Peninsula. There's that system. There's another one coming in Friday, very similar setup, but it is set to deliver a little bit more precipitation to us. I say that because it's looking like a rain-snow mix, very borderline. We're going to have temperatures a few degrees above freezing. So how about tonight? 9 degrees we've got for tonight. That ought to be our last single-digit low for the next several mornings here. We're going to have some clearing out late here, and it will heavily depend on the cloud cover. Some models even trying to pop us closer to 0 degrees. If we can get that cloud cover cleared out earlier, that's in the realm of possibility. But it's also equally likely we even get closer to 15, 20 degrees if we keep that cloud cover acting as a blanket on us overnight. Right now, kind of taking the middle here because it's not going to matter as much. Those flurries gradually wrapping up over the course of the night here. And we're not looking at those light pillars either, for that matter. If you'd seen that heading on into the weekend here, just spectacular photos. Ross Ellett had one. Go back on his Facebook and Twitter pages for that one. A lot of people sent those in. You need very clear conditions, very calm winds, and temperatures near 0 degrees. Haven't exactly had that for past couple of nights at least. So 30 for tomorrow, just a little bit cooler, but we break into more sunshine, could very easily hit the freezing mark again in a few spots. And your first alert extended forecast, yes, we have some snow chances each of these next several days. You think back to last Wednesday, Thursday, yeah, it's not going to be nearly as turbulent as that. Friday, though, 60% chance that rain-snow mix. So far, looking at a bit of a breeze as well. 30, 35-mile-an-hour winds on average here, as far as those gusts are concerned, I should say. And then we break into more sunshine heading on into next weekend, but it does come with that downturn in temperatures, looking at 22 degrees yet again by Sunday.
Well, February, right? I'll take it. As long as we have a little sunshine, that's great. And I keep listening. My ears perk up when you say that we have the longer days.
Yeah, officially in the back half of winter now.
Love that. All right, thanks so much, Dan. Well, big news for Discount Flying, what the merger between Spirit and Frontier means for you.
Clients make more money?
Yep. We do better when our clients do better. At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different.
Well, two airlines that really pride themselves on no-frills pricing becoming one. Frontier Airlines says it's buying Spirit for $6.6 billion. It's a big change for the airline industry. So what would this merger actually mean? It creates the fifth largest airline in the U.S. Well, it's still not known which name the new airline will take or if they'll fly under a new one altogether. Both Spirit and Frontier had losses in 2020 and 2021, but they also showed revenue in the last quarter that was just 2% off from the pre-pandemic levels. Most airlines struggled during the early days of COVID. The merger announcement is also affecting Wall Street. Under the terms of the deal, Spirit shareholders will receive Frontier shares plus extra cash for each share that they have. Now, the deal is expected to close in the second half of this year.
The 2022 tax filing season is underway, and the IRS has already warned Americans to be patient. A new survey finds taxpayers are feeling the stress. According to the Forbes poll, more than 50% of people say they expect their tax refund to be lower this year because of the pandemic aid programs.
A lot of people and families are those with not only families, but children. Only 42% of the low-income households believe they'll actually get money back, even though 77% of taxpayers did get a payout last year. The IRS recommends filing early. That means before February 15th.
Everyone has a credit score, and most people have a credit card, but it can be hard to know how credit cards make a credit score go up or down. ABC's Ike Jochi explains.
Consumers know how important it is to pay off their credit cards and have good personal credit, but they don't always know that how you use your cards can have a big impact on your credit score.
The most important factors when it comes to your credit score is making sure that you're paying your bills on time.
Farnoosh Tarabi, editor-at-large at CNET Money, says automating your credit card payments is a great way to make sure that happens.
The best way to remember to pay on time is to set it and forget it. Make sure that you have hooked up a checking account or a savings account to your credit card on file. And so whenever that payment is due, it gets cleared.
Another big factor in your credit score is what's known as debt to credit utilization. This is the percentage of the debt on all of your credit cards divided by the sum of the credit limits on all of your cards.
Credit scores like to see that utilization at 30% or less. And here's a pro tip. Americans with the highest credit scores, their debt to credit utilization is under 10%.
Tarabi says it's a myth that keeping a small balance on your credit cards will help your credit score.
Carrying a balance on your credit card, the only person that's winning is the credit card company because they are collecting interest on that balance.
And while lenders like to see borrowers have a variety of credit, applying for more credit cards isn't necessarily a good idea.
When it comes to boosting your credit score, it's not so much how many credit cards you have, but it's how you're managing them.
Finally, experts say the best advice is to keep your credit card balances as low as possible at all times. That's the best thing for your credit score and your personal bottom line. Ike Jochi, ABC News, Washington.
Do you remember Murphy's and Rusty's? They were jazz clubs of a bygone era, but there's
catastrophe. Limited channel lineups are evil.
Did they choreograph this?
Choose Spectrum TV and get the sports channels you want.
These days, you'd be hard-pressed to find a dedicated jazz club in Toledo.
But 13 ABC's James Starks explains there's a place in downtown Toledo looking to bring back the sounds to the Glass City. Here's today's finds in the 419.
Good afternoon, everybody. Once again, it's another episode of Finds in 419. I'm James Starks, joined by author, historian Ted Long. And Ted, we're in downtown Toledo at the Toll House. More specifically, we're at Lucille's Jazz Lounge. And you tell me there's a pretty rich jazz history here in Toledo.
There really is. I mean, when you go way back, you talk about the Waiters and Bellman's Club on Indiana. That's where Art Tatum and John Hendricks kind of played in the early days. And then we had Murphy's, and of course we had Rusty's. But we've kind of had a dry spell, and now we have this beautiful venue here in downtown.
And speaking of this beautiful venue here in downtown, I'm going to talk to the CEO and founder of the Toll House, Mr. Will Lucas. I'm joined now by the CEO and founder of the Toll House, Mr. Will Lucas. Will, just talk to me a little bit about what made you want to bring this kind of atmosphere, the Toll House, Lucille's, to Toledo.
Well, Toll House specifically is for the creative and entrepreneurial class of Toledo. So I wanted to build a place where we could, gather folks who are doing the work to help Toledo be what it could be if we got out of our own way. And, with 25,000 square feet, I let the building kind of speak to me on what needed to be here. And I knew immediately jazz had to be in the building. I grew up, going to Rusty's 4 nights a week, and I missed that feeling of having live jazz and watching these magicians, these musicians do their thing.
Now, for someone who may not have been to Lucille's yet that is, what kind of atmosphere, ambiance can they expect?
It's pretty magical. What we did was we tried to lean on the Great Gatsby, aesthetic, 1920s, 1930s. So you see a lot of those little flourishes around the room, very, dark environment to where you can focus on the musicians on stage and really get an expectation of, really great drinks, really great food.
Now, if someone wants to come down to Lucille's or to the Toll House in general, what's the address and what are the hours?
Well, Toll House is a private social club, so that's a members-only social club, but you can learn more about that at tollhouse.com. 1 L, not 2 L's. You'd be buying cookies if you were, put 2 L's on there. But Lucille's is open to the public, and so we're only open on show nights. So the other nights that Lucille's is not having a show is open for the members in the other private parts of the club. But you can learn about the shows that Lucille's features at lucillesjazzlounge.com.
Thanks so much for your time. lucillesjazzlounge.com. Be sure to check that out. Come on down here, have a great time, taking a drink, and of course, some of the great music. For Ted Long, for Will Lucas, I'm James Starks. Another episode of Finds in 419, 13 ABC Action News.
And I think sorry, go ahead.
No, you think what?
No, I think that a lot of people who have been in Toledo for quite some time, they remember Rusty's, they remember Murphy's, and those were places that people love to go. And they're right. There has been a lull.
Well, I was just about to date myself because I think that Lee and Diane, who are getting set up here for Action News at 5, remember when we were reporting live at Murphy's last night. Do you remember that? It was years and years ago, but I was down there live. It was when I was on Night Beat, when we called it Night Beat.
Oh, like the curtain call, the
That's
final,
right.
yeah?
It was, and it was packed, and the place was hopping, and it just went on and on forever. It was like, it was the last jazz riff, so it was quite a scene.
Well, there you go. Yeah. So not only do we have Lucille's, there is another venue, Brick Bar in downtown Toledo. Lisa Guyton explains that they're trying to bring back the jazz scene too. So who knows? Yeah. Maybe it's a new chapter for Toledo.
Right, a new chapter. Everything old is new again. That's maybe how.
Oh, that's what they say. Yeah. It is what they say. Well, that's going to do it for us here on 13 ABC Action News at 4 o'clock as we kick off yet another week.
Oh boy, starting off your Monday, but stick around because as I mentioned, Lee and Diane are here. They're getting ready for Action News at 5.
We'll see you tomorrow.
worries. All during our President's Day mattress sale going on now. Only at Value City Furniture.
Now, on 13 ABC Action News.
Shooting on Cincinnati streets. The victim, a champion boxer from Toledo.
Who foots the bill when somebody needs to be rescued off of Lake Erie? The Coast Guard has the answer.
Plus, convicted in a heinous crime involving a teenager, a Bluffton man is going to prison for decades.
This is 13 ABC Action News.
And welcome to Action News at 5. I'm Diane Larson.
And I'm Lee Conklin. Thanks for joining us this hour. On this Monday, we start with a developing story out of Cincinnati. Champion boxer Robert Easter Jr. was shot during a robbery.
The Toledo boxer told police that somebody approached him from behind and demanded he give them his jewelry. Easter says when he started to run, the suspect shot him multiple times, taking off with his cell phone, 2 gold chains, and 3 diamond rings.
Cincinnati police not identifying any suspects and have yet to release any details about Easter's condition. This is a developing story. Stay with us. Stay with 13 ABC on air and online for updates.
And police are still looking for answers in Toledo's first homicide of the year. This happened Saturday night near the intersection of North Detroit and Phillips Avenue. Police say the victim is 58-year-old Ray Gott. Investigators say Gott was found dead inside his vehicle. The coroner today said he died from 8 gunshot wounds. Now, detectives spoke to several witnesses but have not identified any suspects. Our media partner,